Hey, it's Matt again from Go Brewing. Delta 9 THC beverages are changing how people drink. And today's consumer is hybrid drinking, mixing D9 alcohol and non-alc beer. But until now, there just wasn't a D9 beverage that actually tasted like beer. And that's why we created Easy Man. THC beverages made with a base of buckwheat, millet, and oats. They're not technically beer, but they sure taste like it. These are accretive revenue opportunities for your small brewery. If you're interested in carrying, select the main menu, click wholesale, fill out a short application, and we can deliver Easy Man to your doorstep within 48 hours. Free shipping on all orders over $200.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our presentation today on benchmarking and profit mapping for breweries. I get a good feeling whenever I say those words together, profit mapping and benchmarking. I love that. So I'm lucky to be joined by Jake, Sara, and Dan, and they're going to introduce themselves here in a moment. But first, a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. Our goal really is to talk about where your brewery truly makes money and looking at what are the key profit drivers across maybe different products, customers, channels. So we're hoping to give you guys some benchmarks, some things you can use to benchmark your financial performance against either industry standards or against historical. Help you spot areas for improvement so you can make those data-driven decisions that can ultimately help you improve your profitability. So with Jake, Sara, and Dan, they've got a lot of experience to share, lessons learned, and best practices. So I'm excited to chat with them and share this with all of you watching. So let's start with some introductions. Jake, let's start with you.
Yeah, hey guys, my name's Jake Lohse. I run Presidential Brewing Company in Portage, Michigan with my wife, Kaylee. We started in 2019. Struggled for the first year and or a couple of years, as it might make sense based on the timing. But once we got into 2023, we set a goal out there to hit $1 million for the first time, and we got there that year, and it's been a pretty incredible ride since then. So excited to be here to share some of what we've learned along the way with you.
It's awesome, Jake. Thank you. And Sara, why don't you go next?
Hi everyone, I'm Sara Hamza Watson. I am located in Austin, Texas. I also started a brewery with my significant other. So we run Vacancy Brewing here in Austin. And we also opened shortly after the pandemic, 2021. So been around about 4.5 years now. So probably a lot of crossover with a lot of people out there, and excited to talk about that today.
Awesome. Thanks, Sara. And Dan.
Hi, how are you? My name's Dan Reineke. I have been in the brewery game for 10 years with my business partner and former college roommate, Kevin. Um, yeah, we have been in a space that we are growing to, so it's been a challenging but very exciting 10 years, and looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say and giving us some ideas for the future.
That's awesome, Dan. To say, Dan, is you win the award for the best shirt. That thing's
Oh,
fantastic.
well, I appreciate that.
We love it.
It's one of those shirts you can wear all day and not worry about what it looks like.
That's great. All right, cool. Well, let's kick it off with a question here, and it's one of my favorite questions to ask because I'm always curious how this is working for other folks. But I want to start with you, Jake, is how are you currently tracking your financial performance and like what goals or benchmarks do you use?
It's a really important question, and I think this is the thing that a lot of younger entrepreneurs are missing in their business is kind of doing some of this work and tracking and learning how to keep up with everything. And I like to compare this to going to grade school, where you have your tests and you have your final grades, which is kind of really thinking about profitability, if you will. And then you have your homework. These are all the little things that you do to help you secure those grades later on, like making sure you make enough Facebook posts and making sure that you send your email out and things like that. I've heard you talk about it before with leading and lagging indicators. It's the same idea. And so for us, there are leading indicators and there are lagging indicators. Leading things are things that we're really in control of. We have a lot of authority over what happens with our leading indicators. Some of the ones that we have that have really helped in our brewery, we also have a full restaurant. And so food is kind of part of our game too. But we're tracking Number of people that come in. That's something that tells us, or it's a leading indicator to our level of profitability. And we're tracking the number of Facebook posts and engagements that we get. We're tracking the number of emails that we get sent out and the people that looked at them and opened them up. We're also looking to manage our labor hours, and we're looking to make sure that we're not crossing over certain margins. So, one weird metric that we kind of came up with later on down the road, specifically related to food, is the number of food dollars sold compared to the number of food labor hours worked. And there's a ratio there that we've kind of found to be really comfortable for us, where we're delivering food on time without making customers upset, but also keeping our labor where it needs to be in order to hit our targets. For us, just if you guys are wondering, that's $65 per hour that we're trying to get to. That's a leading indicator, and as long as we manage that number well, we find that our labor targets kind of land right where they need to. We have a process that's a weekly review where we go through our dashboard. This is in a previous life, I was a nerdy Excel guy, and maybe that's never changed. So I've learned a lot about how to build dashboards and things that kind of tie into our point of sale. We use Toast. I download a series of reports out of Toast every week, process them as I would like to produce the metrics that I'm looking for, and then we revisit those metrics every week as a team. We really try to focus on those leading indicators for that weekly interval. And then quarterly, we have a bigger review that's more about some of our lagging indicators. How was our profit margin for food over the last quarter? How was our cost margin, if you will? So it's really, I think it's important to measure both, but really staying on top of your leading indicators. These are the things that are making sure that you're doing today what you have to do in order to get the results at the end of the marking period.
I think that's so important to talk about because we do measure lagging when we talk benchmarks or KPI, where it's almost always lagging, like what were sales, what were margins, what were profits, right? Which you need to do. It's so important, but the leading is really like what can we influence so that we can get those outcomes. So I liked how you talked about, and it's interesting too that you mentioned emails. So you guys you send out a lot of emails. That tends to correlate with more sales. Um, I think that's pretty useful because a lot of times it's social media, and the social media posts are good too, but sometimes it's hard to tell like which generated sales and which was just got a lot of likes, that type of thing can be tricky.
Well, and it's funny too, looking at the difference between social media and email. We've got, I think it's 11,000 or so followers on our Facebook page, and I can put a post out there. I'll get 6 likes. And I'm like, oh, geez, what
Yeah.
am I doing this for? But I can see in my email provider, I've got a list of about 6,500 names, and when I send an email out, I see 2,700 people opened my email. So I know with confidence that I'm reaching people, and a lot of that has to do with algorithms, and if you're not sponsoring posts in social media, a lot of times it's not reaching anywhere near the number of people that you think it's getting to. So I think it's really important to do both. But email is an important part of our marketing strategy.
Great. And Sarah, how about for you guys at Vacancy Brewing? What are you currently tracking for numbers for your
Um,
financial performance?
So very similar to Jake, we have our weekly operations meeting where we track both our tap room and our wholesale income and track that against our projected revenue for the month. So very similar to kind of staying on top of those numbers in real time. Those are the things we can kind of check on and see, are we pacing to meet our goals for that month? And if we're not, what can we do to course correct and make sure we're implementing some strategies to get there? So some of the things we like to do, for instance, if we do see ourselves lagging behind a bit, we can do some specific promotions in the tap room. Or if we're lagging behind in our wholesale, we can look at targeting specific accounts that we know typically will pick up one-off kegs or how we can meet that number. So the overall goal really is to use those short-term data to guide the daily decisions and then use the long-term data to inform our strategy. So very similar to what you were saying, Jake, about the leading and the lagging indicators. That's something we're looking at on a weekly basis. And then at the end of the month and at the end of the quarter, looking at some of those bigger picture indicators that kind of help inform our overall strategy.
Yeah, that's a great point too, in terms of the regularity with which you're meeting and looking at the numbers, because that is something we see a lot in the financials is that, we're looking at stuff that's 2 or 3 weeks or a month old. It's hard to do anything about that. But if you're meeting regularly and you know what your targets are, and then tracking against those, you're able to do that almost in real time, right? And then you can
Right.
adjust as you've mentioned and say, all right, this isn't, we're falling short here. We got to do something.
Yeah.
And then you can pull those levers.
And one important thing we've learned through that process is just making it as simple as possible. It doesn't need to be a fancy report necessarily for these real-time numbers that we're looking at. As long as we can pull those, like you said, from our POS and kind of plop those into a dashboard or into a spreadsheet so that the team is really able to see them and access them easily. I think that's the most important thing. And then when we get to those monthly reviews and the quarterly reviews, we can go a little bit deeper, but just keeping it simple with our weekly indicators that we're tracking.
Great. And Dan, how about you at Loma Brewing? What are you tracking?
I like her notion of keeping things simple. This is a fast moving business and things change on a day-to-day basis. I'm on the floor in operations every day. So and I also think it's very helpful having somebody such as yourself, Kary, who's sort of not involved in operations, who has a separate pair of eyes that can eyeball things and maybe that we don't see if we're stuck in it. I meet with my operations manager we really sit down and hash it out twice a week. We look at what the projections were for the goal and the week, and we don't really have a ratio, Jake, like you said, but there is a report that we get from our POS that tracks our labor dollars in the kitchen versus what we're selling in food, and it's very specific to certain days where we base our operations hyper local, so we go off historicals, and it's usually pretty accurate. So the KPI of labor, which is very important in this business, is one of our biggest kind of strategies to be able to manage the business. We are not yet in the wholesale game, so that's something I would love to learn from both of you as we expand. But like I said, we're a community-based brewery, and we are opening a second one. So a lot of these same systems we have in place, these weekly meetings, the labor projections versus real-time data, and really just having a face-to-face with our operations team are something, are things that we use to kind of stay ahead of the curve.
And you guys do a lot of, and Jake, I know you do as well, a lot of food. And I
Yep.
think you hear this from a lot of tap room owners that, we do food, but maybe it's the biggest challenge in our business, particularly, operationally for sure. And Dan, so maybe just speak a little bit about, I mean, you had mentioned some labor metrics. Is there anything in particular with food that's helpful for you and your team to kind of keep you on track in terms of the profitability or success of that aspect of your business?
Yeah, food is a commodity, so it's very volatile week to week, month to month. I have a food background, so that's my strength, and we kind of lucked into it because we were doing under 50% sales, maybe 47, 46, 45% sales, and now we're up over 53%. So food is our driver. Let's be honest. We were very excited to be able to offer food to our guests because it sort of separates ourselves from a lot of the breweries that are out there. But I give my chef who is in charge of ordering. He's not privy to all the information, but he gets a number roughly, and he plays it like a game. So you have 10 grand to spend on meat this week. So he has several different purveyors that he goes back and forth and looks as best price rolls in or things are not available. So he matches that against the number, and we meet halfway through the week and halfway through the month to kind of see where we are, and then if we have to change the menu, because we do offer some specials and we do offer some barbecued items. If we have to change the menu based on volatility of price, we will do so because we know what our systems are in place back there, and the labor that it costs to make food and produce food. So being that it is such a large portion of our sales, it's one of the things we have our eyes on every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm seeing those trends too, where food tends to outpace beer, not right away, but eventually
Hmm.
as the business becomes a little more mature. So having systems to track it becomes even more important. So that's great. Thanks guys for sharing on that. Um, So, Sarah, I want to start with you next on this question. So, as you look at your business, we're always thinking about like what are the key profit drivers, right? There's lots of things we sell in our business, but if we were to try to winnow it down and think about what are the keys, or in other words, what are the specific factors that you feel at Vacancy have the most significant impact on your profits?
Yeah, so we're lucky here in Austin, Texas that it's hot and people love their lagers. And two of our top selling beers happen to also be our two with the highest margins. So that kind of worked out in our favor, but we also do lean into that and make sure that when we are planning our production and planning our menu in the tap room, that we're really leaning into that and making sure that we always have these beers on draft and that they're always available for our customers and that we keep them in stock. We also, I know we talked a little bit about wholesale versus tap room. We do some small wholesale and we self-distribute, but we like to kind of really think about this as a brand awareness tool and think of like a tap room first model, just because we know that that's where our margins are the highest. So when we're really thinking about our marketing, tap room is always the priority. So we're always planning events and programming and different promotions and specials to drive folks into our tap room where we know our margins are higher. And really like to think of self-distribution as that promotional tool. It's not our primary income stream. So when we are thinking about wholesale in that way as well, we're always liking to think about how we can help get the word out and not just advertise the beer at those restaurants, but how do we drive those customers back into our tap room and really use that as a promotional tool? So those are some of the things that we like to think about when we're thinking about our margins.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's a really good point, Sarah. That's our. I should have said that earlier too. How do we get people into the tap room? Right, that's the number one. Even as someone who doesn't really wholesale, that's our best margin. So butts and seats.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's true. Because whether you're self-distributing or in wholesale, it's challenging to make the profit that you need.
Right.
However, it is a marketing tool and a strategic way to kind of get the word out there. And sure, you can make some money on it too. And
Right.
that's a better way to kind of draw people in.
Yeah, and we always like to ask our customers in the tap room how they learned about Vacancy. We're 4.5 years old, but we're still getting the word out about us. So a lot of times we do hear, "Oh, hey, we had your beer at Cosmic Coffee," which is one of the most popular spots in Austin, just down the road from us. So they're having our beer there, sampling the product, and then asking, "Where can I get this?" or "Where can I get more of these styles?" and then finding our tap room that way. So we've learned that it really is an effective tool for us. And then of course we are also still making some money on it, but really kind of thinking about it as a brand awareness tool.
That's great. And that's the feedback you want to hear is we tried your beer and now we came in here.
Exactly.
That's great. Dan, how about you guys at Loma? What are the specific factors that you see have the most significant impact on your profits?
I keep saying we don't do wholesale, but we do can beer from a mobile canning unit, and we've been doing that since 2020. So there is the cost attached to that, but then we do a lot of community outreach. Anybody who has a school event or a function or an event who reaches out and sends me an email and sends me the paperwork, we donate to. So whether it's a $50 gift card, whether it's we don't do a ton of beer, but we have in the past. Whether it's some merchandise, so we are on the short list probably for every community outreach program, being that we've done so much of that in the past 5, 6, 7 years. And we learned that we didn't do it in the beginning, but the cost attached to that is so small, but it builds a lot of goodwill. If you see our name, whether it's we are on the program guide or we donate to the high school basketball team, we're sort of everywhere. We're synonymous with the neighborhood, with the community. So I think that, and we're small scale, but as we move forward, that's still what is going to be our goal is to dig ourselves into the community. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have a really big price tag on it. And I think events are something that have really carved out a nice niche for us. We realized in 2021 that as events were starting to come back, we needed to organize the way we did things. And so we brainstormed for a couple weeks and figured out we could carve out parts of our dining room with the addition of our private dining room. We reached out to, we're lucky that we're in like the tech capital of the world. So we reached out, myself personally, through my connections, or just really, reaching out individually, people who've been into Loma, and we got our name out with the tech community. And so we do happy hours, we do new team building events. We've done every different kind of event you could configure in our dining room and tap room, and made it accessible, because I know with events, a lot of times it's a huge pain in the ass, huge pain in the butt, for restaurants to do that. In my past life, in restaurants, it was very difficult, but we made it easy. We streamlined it. We gave them a couple options, and we gave them the space, which we're lucky to have. And it turned out to be a really great thing that could move the needle on a week by month basis.
That's great. So community partnerships have been big for you guys. Do you have like I mean, it sounds like, as you said, if people are asking, you want to help, you want to participate, do you have like a strategy? Is there like a particular type of, whether it's a charitable event that you guys tend to gravitate towards?
Schools for sure. There's a lot of schools in the area, tons of private and public schools. We partnered with the Chamber of Commerce early on, and that's kind of a resource for us as we were growing. But now that we're more established, we're lucky that we've been putting in the legwork with all these community programs and schools, that now we're just on the short list. We do like 5 different schools do their end of the year events with us. We have teacher happy hours the last week of the school. We have teacher get-togethers. So it's not just the parents and the students, but it's also the faculties as well. And so, we've sort of built up this goodwill and this kind of drive that's really our bread and butter, to be honest.
I love that. And on the event side, I mean, they're so important. Do you have any events that come to mind that were particularly successful for you guys that, maybe you'd go back to again?
I come from the stream of thought where it's never great to close the restaurant. It just doesn't look good, even if it makes a ton of money. So we rarely do that. But we have a large enough space that we're able to, like I said, carve out different areas. We early on partnered with, I don't think they exist anymore, but an online event planning company. And then we also, there's 3 main wedding venues, like destination wedding venues near us. So I've made connections with them for after parties and welcome parties and stuff like that. So I would say, we've even done like baby showers. It's kind of like we don't turn it away unless it absolutely makes no sense or it completely shuts us down.
Yep, makes sense. Great. Thanks, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Jake, so I'll turn the question to you. What are the key key profit drivers at Presidential?
Well, Dan kind of stole a lot of my thunder there, talking about those events. Events are a really big deal for us too.
Yeah.
And there's really a couple different kinds of events for us. One of them is the very frequently reoccurring events. So every Wednesday, we get to do it's karaoke bingo, and it's a game that we made up, I
Nice.
think. And I get to play host, and we sing songs and we play bingo, and that draws a regular crowd of 60 people will sit there. They don't even sing; they just play bingo while other people sing. And one of the cool things about this is we'll give them a little coupon if you spin a prize wheel after you win, and we'll give them a coupon that's redeemable on their next visit. So it's a way to bring people kind of back into the tap room the next time. And out of that, we've created a ton of regulars that come out for karaoke bingo every week. Trivia we do on Thursdays, and it's the same deal. Those kinds of prizes that get people coming back. Thursday is trivia day for so many of our people. It's just like I come every Thursday because that's when trivia happens, and they basically just want to hear my wife Kayla yell at them from the microphone. She is violent as a trivia host. It's wild. Uh, but so those are kind of some of our like those go year round. We always have those things going on. And then we have some seasonal events, which are this time of year, we have a really cool outdoor space, and we built a stage outside, and we've got every Friday and Saturday live bands that come out. And those are a really big deal for us. Huge, huge concerts. We'll see 300 to 400 people at some of these shows. And that is a great way to draw some traffic in. You have to get comfortable with working at that speed. That's a lot of people to take care of. And frankly, our kitchen is not big enough to really handle that. So we've had to get creative in some ways to deal with that. But music is still alive, at least in our area. People like cover bands, generally speaking, a lot more than they like original stuff, but we dabble in a little bit of both. And local bands have local fans too. That's a beautiful thing about it. So I try to book all bands from around the area, and they bring all their fans. They introduce their fans to us. We get to see them again after that. They come back. So events are a really big part of our strategy. We also have some annual events, some goofy ones that kind of fit our brand. And these are really heavily like woven into our brand. So like on 420 every year, we have a beer that we put out called I Did Not Inhale. And it's a silly little party. We give away branded rolling papers, and we've got this beer. The can's got Bill Clinton smoking a joint on it, and it's like people just love this thing. It's wild. On Father's Day every year, we put out a beer called Founding Fathers, and we have people dress up like their favorite dad, and we have a dad joke competition, and all sorts of silly little things. So these annual events are another really great way. President's Day is a big one for us, and so we have all these days that are like really built around our brand, and people come out for these big celebrations, and that's a really big way for us to. We see a lot of profit driven from those things. Apart from that, I would say some of it is just kind of some strategy stuff. I would say pricing strategy is a big profit driver. If you're pricing things based on the way you feel like it should be priced, you're doing it wrong. You need to use some information. You need to figure out what it costs you to make this pint of beer. If you have no idea what it costs you to make it, if you can't tell me to the penny how much it costs, you don't know how to properly price this beer. And I have run into so many people that say, well, for a cream ale, this place is charging X dollars, and so we have to charge X dollars. Like, no, I mean, not necessarily. You have to charge what you have to charge to make your business work. And if that is maybe making a more premium cream ale, something that's a little cooler, or a little higher ABV or whatever, and then you can charge a premium price for it, then yeah, by all means, go for it. So pricing strategy is really important, making sure that you have a pricing strategy built on knowing what your costs are. And then the other big strategy for driving profit is really cost reduction. When you think about your P&L at the end of the year, you look at your bottom line. It seems simple. Say I had $10,000 of profit for the year. It seems like if I add $1,000 of revenue that you would have $11,000 of profit, but that's just not how that works. In order to produce that 11,000 or that extra $1,000 of revenue, you have to sell $1,000 more worth of stuff, which all has a cost of goods to it. Also a cost of labor involved in selling it. So you're actually really only adding a portion of that, probably somewhere between 30 and 40% of that $1,000 to your bottom line. So it's really important to understand that your most effective way to increase your profit is to reduce your cost. If you can find ways to reduce cost, I'll give you an example of a tool that we built. In 2020, the price of vinyl gloves started changing quickly. I was paying $30 a case or so, and then all of a sudden it was $95 a case at this vendor. And I thought, well, that's a wild swing. So I went and found a different vendor, and I was able to get them for $35 again, at least for that week. That is a great practice, but it's also not super practicable to do for every item that you need to order. We have probably 140 different things that we have to look at and make sure that we have in stock at all times. And we do that every week. I built a nerdy Excel tool that goes through 4 different vendors that we have. It looks at their website, it finds out what the price is, and it says you should order these 3 things from Amazon. You should get those 4 things over at Webstaurant and order these 16 things from your normal supplier. And that was a huge advantage for us in a time that pricing was so volatile. It was changing so much and so wildly. I couldn't put a number on what it saved us, but I would be willing to bet it was probably $5,000 that year. And if you imagine that's similar to adding $15,000 worth of revenue to our top line. So saving costs is a really big strategy for driving profit, and anywhere you can find to do that is a huge way to increase that bottom line.
Yeah, that's great. And I want to keep on that thread for a moment and kick it to you, Dan, because I know you guys do a great job of line item review of your expenses and really understanding like what this is and how to control it. Maybe speak to that a little bit about your process to review that expenses. Oop, I think we got you on mute there.
Sorry, I muted. Sorry about that. Yeah, so as we so the spreadsheet, Jake, that you're using that tracks the different website pricing is that seems like a valuable tool because we do have a lot of different vendors for the same items and it changes on a week by week basis. So that seems like something we could use. But I guess that as we from the very beginning entering invoices, right? That's a tedious project, but we're coding things specifically, and we're changing things based on menu items. I think you know, kind of getting to what Jake was saying also is, it's important to have to not line price. We early on in our career we were just line pricing beers because everyone else was doing it. And then we realized we needed to sort of audit that and we were losing money, right? It was money walking out the door when we're producing a beer for $1.21 and a beer for 85 cents a pint and we're charging the same price. So quickly we realized that, and that went down to food as well. So quickly we realized that, those incremental changes on we do it by year, but we're tracking it by month and quarter, make a difference, right? So it's become this big thing where we sit down and we say we compare our pricing with others in the community, others in the town within a 20-mile radius where you can get a burger, fried chicken sandwich, brisket, all that stuff. And then we look at what it costs to make our product. And then because there is an element of massaging where you don't want to, even if it is a very expensive item that we don't want to charge a premium price, but kind of getting onto what Jake said also, maybe there's something we do to augment that dish or change that beer so it fits our sort of our pricing perspective. But I think that's something that as we do change so many different menu items and beers, that's something we look at with every new product that comes out is we have a very good idea of how much it costs to make and how much we need to charge. And we stand behind that for our guests.
That's great. And that's definitely a running theme here is that, we got to understand what the cost of the product is. And these costs change all the time. So we have to have a system to be monitoring that and on top of it. And it can be hard. So that tool's great. And I know each of you has a system to do those financial reviews, whether it's weekly or monthly or somewhere in between. So that's great stuff. Thanks, guys. So a new question, and Dan, I'm going to start with you on this one. Um, so what are the areas of improvement that you guys have found as a result of tracking financial performance? Because we're tracking for a reason. It's not just I love a good spreadsheet, and I'll probably make one just for fun, but we're tracking these so that we can find these improvements. Any examples from Loma?
Yeah, I mean, since we've really been getting into it over the last year and paying even closer attention, I think it's their ability to react to be proactive rather than reactive. I think that's important. Seeing trends coming before they hit, seeing market changes. I think I'll be honest, like we were always trying to make the adjustment after the fact, right? We're still trying to get to that point where it's in real time, but we're much more proactive in what we do when it comes to having to change course if things aren't working or it's just allowed us like seeing these numbers and the spreadsheets and tracking these numbers have allowed us to be a little bit more nimble with how we do business because we're a small team. It's really just me, my business partner, our operations manager, and the chef, and then we have other key employees. But those are the four people that are involved in the numbers. So we're just trying to get to the point where we always talk about that. This is the classic question: is like, how long does it take you to close the end of the month? This is a question that I've asked and that Kary's answered many times. In a perfect world, yeah, it's the second day of the month, it's all closed. But it was taking us 2, 3, sometimes even 4 weeks to get this stuff done, and we're trying to shrink that number down. Right? We want to get down to 10 days or less. We want to be able to make changes if we have to before it's too late.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, it's just a classic problem with financial accounting and reporting is it takes so long. But what I like about what you guys have done is you recognize the problem. You said it's not acceptable. We need to figure it out. And then you've dug in and kind of reverse engineered it and said, look, what is preventing us from getting this thing done quicker? Maybe 2 days is not realistic, but it's certainly a lot better than 4 weeks. How do we? So you guys have methodically gone through it and said, all right, this is holding us up. This is holding us up. So I really applaud you for doing it because then you've got quicker return on what actually happened, and then you can diagnose it and make changes.
Yeah.
The other thing I've seen you guys do, Dan, is when you're doing your expense review, you guys are really thorough with what exactly has changed. Like, where were you on this particular expense? Where are you now? What's that variance look like? What's causing it? Why did that happen? So just being really, it is methodical and it can be tedious too. But when you find areas of reduction, it can be pretty satisfying, I would say as well.
Yeah, and also changing the way we like as simple as changing the way we're coding things. Like this doesn't make sense. So why is it in this bucket? It's something we can control a little bit better if we start coding in a different way. It just allows us our brain to kind of rewire a little bit.
Great. So Jake, I'll kick it to you. What areas of improvement have you guys found as a result of tracking these numbers?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing that I think data nerds rejoice over being able to identify different trends. And one of the things that I've found the most about being in the data is that trends begin to reveal themselves over time. One that's been particularly interesting for me has to do with add-on sales. So for us, an add-on sale is we convince a customer to take home a t-shirt or bring home a 4-pack of beer or maybe upgrade from chips to tots in their food selection. And one of the weird things, and it's kind of hard to explain, but I'll do my best. Add-on sales tends to add to your average ticket size when you've taken the add-on sale amount out of the equation. So, say somebody normally would come in and buy a burger and a pint with no add-on sale. Somebody that's likely to, or somebody that takes an add-on in their order is more likely to order a second beer than somebody that doesn't take the add-on order. And we kind of pushed that home with our team. We said, hey, there's a few things that are really important about this. But number one, the reason they stay longer is I think they feel more welcomed. They feel there's a better hospitality experience when we are suggesting some of these kinds of things. When I see that you've had 3 of my Rutherford B. Hayes, I'm going to suggest that you take some of it home with you because it seems that you probably like this beer. And that kind of observation, that level of observation, is likely to make somebody feel at least noticed. And maybe they'll sit around and get an order of fried pickles and have another beer. Who knows? But generally speaking, driving those add-on sales, we have seen to have a positive impact on overall tickets, even after you've taken the add-on sale out of the equation. And so that trend, being able to see that, has led us to focus in on these add-on sales, and we've built some internal like contests and bonus structures around add-on sales because we realize that it's important, that it matters for our customer experience, it matters for our bottom line. And so I love that getting a chance to kind of dig through your trends shows you opportunities like that. It's been an interesting one, and we set a pretty aggressive goal for us this year, 10% of our sales being add-on sales. And so, but in having that goal, it's actually driven people to a higher level where we were closer to 7.5% in previous years. So looking at your data and finding trends, you can only find that if you're tracking anything. But when you do, those things start to show themselves to you, and you just say, wow, that's a sound of opportunity right there. I should do something about this.
And that's the whole goal, isn't it, right?
Yeah,
Looking at your
absolutely.
numbers and making, these data-driven decisions that improve the bottom line. That's awesome.
Yeah.
One thing, so that's obviously a huge profit driver add-on. And I love how you have been so thoughtful about it and said, all right, how do we want to train our folks in this and how do we want them to how do we want to reward them, for doing these things? Because I think there's a fair amount of reluctance that I've heard of from taproom staff that's like, I don't want to be pushy or I don't want to this and that. How do you deal with that, or have you dealt with that in terms of that kind of resistance maybe from those add-on sales?
Well, of course. Yeah, whenever you're going to make a change in your business, you're going to try to implore somebody to do something that they haven't done before. there's going to be some natural resistance just to start with. A couple of the things that we've done is first, we put in a bonus structure. We have a profit sharing that we do at the brewery, and we have a kicker, if you will, that's based on your add-on sales percentage. If you're not doing this, you are not living up to the company values, you're not contributing to our overall profit. If you are under a certain number, you're not eligible for the profit sharing. If you're over our target, if you're overachieving, you actually get a multiplier that gives you more than what you would normally just be eligible for in the bonus. So that's a motivational tool. People do love money. But so that's one way that we do it. Another thing that we do, and this is really front of house relevant more than back of house, but they are the ones that have the best opportunity to create add-on sales. And so we talked about this in the meeting, and imagine that as a server, you see 60 people per day. And imagine you ask every one of these 60 people to upgrade from tots to the dill pasta pickle salad, and half of them do it. That's $3 on 30 people. You just made $90 more in sales for the day. And you're also going to get tipped on that $90. So it's going to pay you in bonus later on down the road, but also today, immediately, you're going to see a reward for your effort. And so that it's teaching people that the $3 sounds so little, but when you multiply it by 20 people, by 30 people, all of a sudden that $3 that seems so insignificant turns into something meaningful for you.
That's great. Such an important thing to underscore as well, that we have this opportunity not once in a day, but 30, 50, 60 times. And I think you spoke to it too, and it's certainly been my experience, is that when you go in, you're there to buy things. I come to your tap room, I want to know what you have. Don't keep it a secret from me. If you have that amazing pasta salad, I'm in, but maybe I missed it. So this add-on sales concept, I think, is really cool. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Cool. Sara, let's kick it over to you. Vacancy. What areas of improvement are you guys seeing?
Yeah, so one of the biggest areas of improvement since we've been tracking our financials a bit more closely is really in our discount control. So one thing that we've been really looking at very closely is a percentage of our discounts to our gross sales. So what we found here is we were really overusing some of these discounts. So since we found that, we were able to really implement more clear guidelines just internally with leadership, but then also roll those out to our staff to let them know what our expectations are in terms of discounts, when to appropriately apply them, how to use them, when things should be a surprise and delight, and when we want to kind of avoid our customers expecting a discount for certain things. So we really kind of reset the standard there, and we've seen a huge improvement over the last year. And kind of goes back a little bit to what Jake was saying about additional revenue not always, translating directly to the bottom line. We kind of have seen that we were able to impact our bottom line just by controlling these discounts without necessarily seeing additional revenue, which of course we're still aiming to do and still are doing over time. But one really quick thing we could do is really control those discounts. And we've seen a huge improvement with that. And then one other lesson we've learned out of that process is really learning when to discount versus when to promote. So a promotion doesn't always need to mean a discount. We don't always need to say, we have $4 or whatever it is, $4 pints on this day because we're featuring this beer. We could build a promotion around simply featuring a beer or featuring a drink without necessarily using a discount as the promotion tool. So that's been a big thing we've learned about, when to use those discounts as a promotion and when we can use other things to promote certain products and not necessarily rely on the discount for that.
It's a great point. And I'm glad you're bringing this up, because when you and I were working together, and this is something that kind of came out, I've started to look at it and I'm seeing it in more and more places. So I think it's a good opportunity to kind of raise awareness for people to say, yeah, are you separate? Can you see your discount? Like if you go onto your income statement, is there a separate line? Because a lot of tap rooms will just kind of bury it in sales. So you just won't even really know. It's in that big sales number. But I think a takeaway here is for folks to consider, have a separate line item for those discounts and organize them separately. So you might have a discount for, industry folks that come in. You might have a discount for your own staff or for marketing. So there's different flavors of discounts. But what you guys have done that I think is so smart is you've identified them and you've sort of nipped them in the bud where you're like, wow, that's a little out of, didn't realize it was that high, and then put new systems in place so you can control them. And yeah, that's one of the quickest ways to improve that bottom line is to reduce some of those costs. So that's great stuff. Jake, I want to pivot back to you. In When we've talked in the past, you've mentioned to me that Presidential is breaking records. You're breaking records, and so I'd like you to speak to that, and then talk to us about how you share this information. I believe there's a whiteboard. I think people would be interested to learn about what your process is there.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to feel like you're part of something meaningful and you're getting something done that's maybe bigger than anything that's been done before. And so something that we started doing earlier this year is actually we found ourselves occasionally hitting a weekly record, and it's like, oh, cool. And we sat there and wondered, like, what is this number the weekly record, or where is it? I know it's somewhere around whatever $30,000. I can't remember exactly where it landed. And so it came up in our leadership team meeting. What if we had a board that just had, here's our daily record, all time since we've opened. This is the best day we ever had. This is our best week we ever had, our best month and our best year. And we have a whiteboard that kind of hangs out in the back room. What's fun about that is there's some awareness and there's some excitement on days or weeks that we feel like we're about to break that record. And what's funny is customers react to that too. Occasionally we'll be out at one of our concert nights and we tell the band like, "Hey, you sell like 100 more beers for us, and you guys are gonna hold the record with us." And so these bands get excited, and they tell all the people that are there to watch the show, like, "We need you to get 100 beers right now, because we want that record and not them." And so what's been interesting and fun about this is our staff has really bought into this too. There's some excitement, generally speaking, just about like it does feel like progress too. When you're breaking a record, it feels like we're getting better at something. And you get to be part of getting this thing to be better with us. So yeah, that's it's been a fun tool. We enjoy having it and excited to continue seeing what other records we can break.
It's such a great idea. I really love it. And you touch on a lot of sort of human needs and
Yeah.
emotions. Right? We want to be part of something, right? And we want to know, are we winning this game? And show us, because a lot of times I think the numbers are, oh, no, we can't show people the numbers. But that example you just gave is brilliant, I think. You've got a band out there. They want to be part of it. They're advocating. And of course, people are going to all pull to hit that goal. So that's very cool.
Well, yeah, and then they'll come back and say, "I was there the night we broke the record." I'm like, "Yes, come back and help me do it again."
Yeah.
That's so good. So as we kind of wrap up, I want to wrap up with the one piece of advice question. And Jake, I'll come back and start with you. Is like, what's like one piece of advice that you'd give to a brewery owner or a manager they're looking to improve the benchmarking and financial tracking?
The one piece of advice is to just start. If you don't start, it's never going to get anywhere. And this is probably not something that all of you are going to fight too hard against. If you own a brewery right now, you're good enough at just starting. But a lot of times we feel like this isn't a priority. We feel like this doesn't matter enough. This doesn't command my time today. I'm going to put this off until some other day. I'm here to tell you that it does matter. Knowing what your numbers are absolutely plays a role in the success of your business. And you have to start with something. It can be really intimidating when you look at fancy dashboards that you see out there that somebody built a whole ton of automations into. And like my dashboard that I have now, I click a button and it does everything for me in about 3 minutes. And then I'm done for the week. It's pretty awesome. It didn't start that way. It started with me looking at reports and poring over data and looking for trends and figuring out the things that I cared about. Start with one metric that you feel like matters to your business and pay attention to it. Look at weeks that when this metric was, when we had a good week, what did this metric look like? When we have a bad week, what does this metric look like? And figure out where that thing needs to live and then start tracking it. But just start with something. The longer you put it off, the longer you're waiting to find success.
That's great. And Sarah, for you, one piece of advice.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to echo a lot of what we've already been talking about, one of the biggest pieces of advices that I would have is to start tracking in real time and not retroactively. And I think that kind of goes back to what Jake said just now about just keep it simple and just start. It's very hard as small business operators. You know, you're in the day-to-day of the operations. It can be really hard to take a step back and making sure you're looking at the big picture. So just having that one thing that you're looking at, or that one or two things you're looking at weekly, real time, really does make a huge difference. And just building those, you know, simple systems that are going to keep you on track has made a huge difference for us. And I think that's a great piece of advice for new business owners and operators.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. And Dan, one piece of advice.
Not to piggyback on both what you both had already said, but I think that I would be the biggest advocate of just starting. It's, you know, just being able to see your way around a P&L and QuickBooks is not enough. You need to get yourself out of your comfort zone, and numbers, frankly, is not my comfort zone. So working with you and like making it a priority has been significantly better. I already feel better, and I feel like moving forward as the next project starts, I think that we're already going to be ahead of it. But rather than just piggyback, I will say invest in your staff too. That's important, and convey to them what's important. It doesn't have to be numbers. It could be you know, anything that makes sense for the business growth. But if you're there and you're present with your staff and you're conveying that what's important and what's not, I think that goes a long way.
That's great. Yeah, and I think the running theme here is you got to know your numbers. And then furthermore, you got to do something about it when the numbers are not tracking the way that you want it. And then it's experimentation, right? Not everything's going to work. You try this marketing thing or that event and it works or it doesn't, but you got to be tracking against that to see. And I think the other through line is involving your team, you know, whether it's training them or, you know, making them feel like they're part of this too. I think that's so important. You know, you think about not just financial outcomes, but the culture, you know, the team building, and all of those things that just come together to help you get, you know, really where you want to get to financially. Um, so as we kind of wrap up, why don't we do one last quick around the horn? Maybe again, tell people where they can find you, maybe something cool that's coming up at your brewery. Jake, let's kick it off with you.
Yeah, pretty easy to find me. You can email me directly at jake@presidentialbrewing.com if anything I talked about sounds interesting or you want to hear more. But also, a fun fact, last year I published a book. It's called Shifting Gears. It's available on Amazon. This whole book was about the process of not just starting the brewery, but getting it to a place that it actually works. And I kind of compare it to driving a stick shift vehicle where neutral is more of just having the idea but not really going anywhere yet. And spend a lot of time on what the different gears look like, how you can shift from one gear to the next. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's got some silly stories in there, and definitely a lot of great ideas for you. If you feel like you're stuck in a spot with your brewery, there's some stuff in there that should be able to help you get to that next level.
Absolutely. And I encourage people to check it out. It's so important because, you know, a lot of the lessons learned, um, you know, you've written them down. You know, you say, all right, well, I did this and it worked, did that and it didn't. But I love the analogies too, because that helps people sort of absorb and digest like what each of these stages of the business can look like and where you might get stuck. And so that's great. Thank you for putting that out there in the world.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and Sarah, for folks who might be in the neighborhood of Austin, Texas, tell them about Vacancy, what you guys have got coming
We're
up.
in South Austin, so if you're ever in the area, please come check us out. We have a great tap room. We partner with a pizza food truck, and we do all sorts of events. I know we talked about that a little bit today, but we love to get creative with our events. So there's always something going on in our tap room. You can come check it out and have the beer there. And then if you ever want to get in touch, you can reach me at Sara@vacancybrewing.com. Very simple, and love connecting with other beer people around the country. So love to hear from you.
Great. Thank you. And Dan.
Well, pretty big project in the works. We are expanding to Manteca. Well, Loma Brewing Company is in Los Gatos. We're going an hour and a half east to Manteca, so in Central Valley, and building out a production brewery, really from a patch of grass. So it's been quite an adventure. I should write a book about that. So we are looking to open in October. And that'll be kind of the hub as we look to expand into different taproom markets in Central Valley and up and down California. But my email is dan@lomabrew.com. Happy to talk about anything you'd like to in the beer business or unrelated. Big fan of baseball as well. So if you're a baseball fan, let's do that. But this is going to be an exciting adventure for us. I'm actually headed over there tomorrow all day. So I'll be as they start putting in the brewing equipment.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Well, Jake, Sarah, Dan, thanks so much for joining today. A lot of great information, hopefully some great takeaways for people. So thank you so much for your time, your experience. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.